What's up, and welcome back to the Kinda Funny Screencast. That's right. We have rebranded Kinda Funny Reactions to Kinda Funny Screencast because it makes more sense. This is a podcast that is happening at least once a week. There's more details over on twitter.com/kindafunnyvids that you can check out. And if you have any questions about what our plan is for the rest of the year and where we're at with the studio, all that stuff, we are holding a town hall next Wednesday, the 18th at 11 a.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. If you have any questions, get them in at kindafunny.com/townhall, and Greg and I will be there to answer them.
I didn't agree to this.
You did, my friend. That friend voice that you hear is the one, the only Greg Miller.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I'm good. Those little glasses switcheroo going on there.
I'm a pro. What can I say?
Yeah.
People for years have been saying nobody switches glasses like Greg Miller. Isn't that right, Andy?
That's exactly right, Greg. That is exactly right.
We have the Nitro Rifle all the way from Texas, Andy Cortez.
It's a beautiful time watching all these Disney shows, and I'm going to miss my dad's OLED TV when I go back to San Francisco. Tim.
Yeah, you are. Woo! That TV sings with this show, doesn't it?
Oh, my goodness.
And speaking of that TV singing, we got the big dog Kevin Coelho with one right there. You can see it, that LG OLED.
Sing that song, Kevin. Sing that song.
Everyone's camera's frozen, so that's fun.
Oh, my camera's frozen.
Oh, Nick. We got some movement from the producer.
Nick's moving.
Nick Scarpino.
Now, you can't stop me from moving, Greg. You want to see someone change glasses? Andy, show him how it's done.
It's too late. Andy started moving. There he goes.
Look at Andy sucks at it. Look at Andy's terrible at it.
Wow, yeah, he's
You
having
know what I
a
mean?
lot of trouble.
Look at that. You couldn't even see it. It was terrible. I'm way
Greg,
better than that.
I cannot hold a
Hogwash.
candle to Greg's glasses.
Thank you,
I
Andy,
cannot
alright?
do it. Yeah.
Andy Cortez is still in Texas on a little vacation, but he wanted to take a vacation from that vacation to talk about Marvel Studios' What If, and I have a feeling that's
hold on.
affecting the internet.
I'm gonna restart Discord real quick.
Do your thing, Kev.
Hey guys, secret time. I don't know if this makes it to the final cut. But we'll see. Secret time. Secrets.
See you there.
Don't fucking tempt me.
What's
I
up?
don't know why I actually thought that
We're
was a
back, we're
real
back.
thing you just told me. So the first time, Kevin, my camera actually froze on OBS, and this time it looks like it was a Discord thing because I'm still moving to my OBS.
Oh, we're moving now,
interesting.
baby.
Yeah, we're all good now. Everyone's good
Except
now.
for Nick.
We-
Except for Nick. Oh, we're good.
Nick's
everybody.
sloth like he
he's-
moves
yeah,
so
sloth
slowly.
like.
Exciting stuff. Well, everybody, this is the Kinda Funny Screencast, where each and every week we get together to review the latest in TV and movies. We're going to be doing it at least once a week. We're going to be doing every episode of this here Marvel Studios What If show. In a couple weeks when Star Wars Vision starts, we're going to do that as well. And a whole bunch of movies here and there. Later this week, we're doing Free Guy. If you haven't been watching, we've done Old, M. Night Shyamalan's Old. We've done Jungle Cruise, The Green Knight. The list goes on and on. We've been doing a lot of cool stuff, but we're going to continue to double down as movies start to come back and be a little bit more prevalent in our lives. And that is very, very exciting to me. If it's exciting to you, you can get the show on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. And if you want to get it as a podcast, you can go to your favorite podcast service and just search for Kinda Funny Screencast, and we'll be right there for you. It might take a couple of days for the branding and all that stuff to switch over, but just be patient. I appreciate it. And also, if you want to get the show ad-free, patreon.com/kindafunny is where you want to be. But without further ado, let's talk about episode 1, What If Captain Carter were the first Avenger? Greg Miller, I want to start with you. What did you think?
I adored it. I was there, eyes as big as saucers. Jen and I both commented that it felt like Sunday morning cartoons because we watch these in the morning, right? So we were sitting here eating our breakfast, watching this, and the animation was so gorgeous. I thought it was an interesting, fun take on it. I had seen the IGN review yesterday. I had seen some early reviews being like, oh man, it's kind of a weak starter. It gets going like that. I guess for me, I totally enjoy this. I would tell everybody to go watch it. I think this What If has the potential to be my favorite one of these shows we've had, which is saying something because I've loved them all, obviously, right? But like, I expect these to be, obviously, as it was, way more whiz bam. Here we go. Let's go. This is what's going to be changing. This is what's going to be. It's a cartoon, but like, I think any complaints I had, you could have had, or that I think are definitely there, as I'm sure we will criticize it. Haley Atwell's performance was so good, and the animation was so good, and there were so many times I was watching it on my OLED TV, my LG OLED TV, Andy, where I was like, "Damn, this is one of those like every frame is art kind of things," where it's like I could see me going through and screenshotting these for backgrounds for my computer because it was just so gorgeous.
Yeah. Andy Cortez, what'd you think?
I thought it was okay. I think all the reasons I liked it were reasons that don't necessarily lend to it being a great episode for me. I thought it felt like a 30-minute long recap of what happened on the last episode, because of how breakneck pace everything was. It was just scene after scene, and obviously you're recreating 2/3 of a movie and pushing that, condensing it into 30 minutes. So it felt super rushed. I did enjoy sort of that Saturday morning cartoon vibe, like Greg was mentioning, but I will say the art in the trailers, I thought it looked way better on screen as opposed to these, condensed YouTube videos that or compressed YouTube videos that we've been watching. I thought it popped a lot more. I love that there's always a sort of rim light on every character, regardless of what environment they're in. The backgrounds are so painterly and gorgeous, and even the 3D textures on a lot of the backgrounds have such a great little hand drawn sort of vibe to them. The particle effects, I love that they do the Spider-Man thing into the Spider-Verse, where if there's an explosion or if not Bucky, if Cap inside of the iron suit or whatever is shooting that blue beam, everything is done like at 12 frames whenever there's some sort of explosion. It just has a really good sort of hand-drawn animation vibe to it. But I do think everything was really fast. I didn't love Howard Stark. I didn't love some of the voice acting here and there. I just felt like it was a kind of okay show for me. But from what I've read, it does get better, so I'm looking forward to that.
Nick Scarpino.
I really enjoyed it. I'm same reasons as everyone else. I felt like I was watching the X-Men cartoon back in the day. When I'm just sitting there on Saturday morning. I just mowed the lawn, and my parents are like, "Fine, you can finally have a Coke. I know it's 10 o'clock in the morning, but you can have a Coke and watch Morph." And yeah, I liked it a lot. I think these are really, really cool. I do agree. I wish this was an hour long. I wish they had given it more time to breathe. I liked Howard Stark. I liked all of their chemistry together, and it's just it really is just a cool series and a cool little sandbox to be able to play in. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of them.
Kev?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. There are some elements that I was like, oh, maybe this. It's interesting how bringing it into like a cartoon like makes it feel so much more like cartoon like, in the sense that like when the Captain Carter jumps down in front of the cars and like blocks them, and it's like, oh, like I don't know that Captain America could ever do that, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things of like, now it looks like she jumps like 100 feet in the air, and it's just I kind of don't like those aspects of it.
Kevin,
but like,
she threw her shield from like 3 miles away.
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
That
on the
shit was
top, on the
wild.
top of
And like when she runs through and like busts through like 5 guys or whatever, and then does a spin kick to like the top one to slam him back into the wall. I'm right there with you. I'm like, oh man, that's like obviously way more cartoony, but I was like, God, I love it. And like just the vibe and the color and the glow gave me such vibes of the Fleischer cartoons for Superman. Right, those those Max Fleischer ones from way back in the day of Superman that had that like look and that feel, and I was like, I just love the kinetic energy of this. I love how it's flowing.
Yeah, definitely, and that's I did not like the art style in the trailer, but I think that watching the actual show with my hue lighting and everything tied together, it really, really worked. So that was also a lot of fun, and I'm really, really enjoying the story. Like, I didn't think that like the emotional beats of little Steve and her falling in love, where I was like, this is gonna happen, and then she gets pulled into that eldritch monster, and you're like, oh no, and that's how they do the time jump, and it's like, man, I am so prime and ready for episode 2. Also, the setup with the like small changes and like, here's the change with the Watcher.
Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah. Like, all of that worked
cool.
so well for me, and I'm
cool.
like legitimately so excited for the rest of this season, and I'm also very excited for like the future of the MCU and the future of the Watcher and what they do with this sort of stuff.
This show is brought to you by MeUndies. You know how when you're in a nerve-wracking situation and people say, imagine everyone in their underwear to make yourself feel comfortable. As if imagining a room full of strangers down to their skivvies is what makes us feel comfy. MeUndies believes comfort does not start with imagining, but instead it starts with actual comfort. MeUndies designs limited edition prints all the time so you can express yourself every single day. Building your undie collection and picking out which lucky pair gets to meet your butt for the day has never been so fun. Choose prints with corgis, chicken nuggets, your zodiac sign, goofy puns, and more. MeUndies also releases collabs with some pretty big names like the Rolling Stones and Space Jam: A New Legacy, but you have to grab them fast because once they're gone for good. Kinda Funny loves MeUndies. You've heard the boys talk about them for years. They're comfort with good designs that make your friends jealous. To get 15% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MeUndies.com/morning. We're also brought to you by Faraday Brand. Can it be? It's finally summer, and we're actually gonna have a real summer this year. So naturally, we've started thinking about looking good after a year and some change, because we're going places. This summer is what Kinda Funny is calling Hot Boy Summer. You saw the jean jacket, you see the haircut, we're doing it big this summer. And that's where Faraday comes in. They make the perfect clothes for the summer. Tim Geddes is the most stylish person I know, and he even loves Faraday Brand clothing. And they're so confident in the quality of their stuff, they have a lifetime guarantee of quality. They'll replace or fix your clothes forever, no matter what. And to top it all off, Faraday is giving our listeners 20% off. That's right, 20% off. So stock up on all of your clothes for summer now. Head to FaradayBrand.com and use code MORNING at checkout to snag 20% off all your summer gear. That's code MORNING at Faraday. That is FAHERTY brand.com for 20% off. Last but not least, we're brought to you by Upstart. If you're carrying a credit balance month after month, it can feel like you're in a never-ending cycle of debt. Upstart can help you make that final payment so you can get ahead. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your credit card debt with a personal loan all online. Upstart knows you're more than just your credit score and is expanding access to affordable credit. Upstart considers your income and current employment to find you a smarter rate for your loan. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate upfront for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. You can receive funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/KFMB. That is upstart.com/KFMB. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/KFMB.
I also love the facial animations and how it reminded me of the Iron Giant's take on what animating faces looks like as compared to, you know, whatever Disney does and whatever all the other styles do. There's that one scene where the big gigantic dude walks up and he's like, oh, they sent a Fraulein to come fight the war or whatever. And as soon as she hits him in the knee and he like gets really close to the screen, is like, oh shit, he's making this sort of reaction face. It reminds me exactly of the way that the dude in Iron Giant looks, not the robot, the other dude, the guy with the black hair and the little goatee or whatever. Like, I just love that they accentuate and have all those sort of principles of animation that we kind of expect from a lot of these really good shows.
See, for
And
me,
that's me.
Go ahead.
Go for Nick.
I was gonna say one of the things that did pull me out a little bit at the beginning though was some of the mouth movements and things like that. Like this style is so hard to pull off because it is 3D for 2D, right? And when I saw the trailer originally, I was like, okay, is this gonna play out like one of those horrible motion comics that Netflix had like 10 years ago, where I was like, oh, cool, a Wolverine cartoon. It's like a still picture of Wolverine moving around, but no, they ended up nailing. By the end, I was like, I'm fully immersed, and I'm okay with this style now because I think this is probably the best interpretation or the best example of this style that they've put out there. Yeah, sorry, Tim, what were you gonna say?
I'm actually surprised at how much I enjoyed this episode in particular. I've always been down for the concept of what if, but you know, First Avenger's not my favorite of MCU movies, and it's not my favorite like era of MCU movies either in terms of where it takes place. And the Captain Carter stuff, I was like, okay, cool, but it seems like we're just gonna get that movie again with the smallest what if change. And I think they did a really good job with it, where I liked that it was 30 minutes and not an hour, because it was just like we've seen First Avenger, we know those plot beats, we can kind of fill in the stuff. Let's just see the highlights. And it reminded me a lot of reading the comics, the one-shot comics that are like, let's just get to the good stuff. This is kind of a greatest hits moment to set up a character that we seemingly are going to see again based on how this episode ends, which I think is really cool. But where this really sings to me is the animation. I am with most of you guys, it seems, where seeing in the trailer, there's moments that I was like, this looks cool, but like I typically don't like this type of animation, and it usually doesn't suit itself to really good storytelling. And I think that this is the best it's ever looked, and I think it's because it works best for action. And so much of the action scenes we see in this are honestly like up there with some of the best one-shot scenes we've had in any of the MCU shit. There's 2 long takes in this episode of just following her doing action, like one of her jumping from plane to plane. That was like,
that was cool. That part was
invigorating,
awesome.
man. Like so cool and so great, and something that you can't really do in live action. And
her coming toward the jet as it's shooting at her, she just punches through the cockpit.
Yeah, and they came with it. They brought the
freaking
camera in
rad,
with
dude.
it. That's so great.
Did you guys think it was interesting at all that like I feel like she was way more violent and like down to kill than we had seen Captain
Well, she's
America in the
English,
past?
Kevin.
Yeah,
you know?
she's you know what I mean.
They're
No,
they're
but like
bloodthirsty over
seriously,
there on that island.
like there were multiple times like she jumps in that plane,
violent,
kills
yeah,
a bunch
for
of people, throws a grenade, jumps out, and like rips the dude out of the cockpit, and like that looks really cool. But it's just interesting that because it's a cartoon,
you know,
I think they're more comfortable
100%.
showing that kind of
You
stuff.
know what it is also, Kevin? It's because it's condensed, right? And that was one of the things that kind of that hit me for a second. I was about 15 minutes in. I was like, whew, we got a lot of action, a lot of violence in this for sure. Because we're not getting those dramatic beats of all that first act setup. We're not getting him we're not really getting to know the characters because we already know Peggy Carter so well that we don't need that stuff. But then after 22 minutes of her snapping people's knees, you're like, oh, this should be rated R. This is pretty
different.
intense.
She's different.
But I like that, and that's what takes it away from just being a Saturday morning cartoon. I think that it really stands itself apart from just being like a Disney XD Marvel animated show. And it's like, oh, this does feel like a Marvel Studios animated show. It feels like Marvel Studios' first animated show, and I definitely am hoping we see a lot of improvements. But I will say the choice that they made for this animation style to benefit the action scenes works because, like Nick said, it is the condensed version where it's just a lot of action scenes. And I think it's at its weakest when you're looking at their mouths, and the lip sync is it's bad, and like it's distracting. And especially when you start talking about cartoon dialogue, it feels different than in real life dialogue. And so performances even are weird when there's these actors that some of them fucking nail it. Like Peggy Carter, she was so good. Sebastian Stan, though, it's like, what was your direction? Like, I can't believe
it was in between scenes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They like brought him into a coat closet and like,
they're like, it's a Saturday morning cartoon. He's like, okay, I'll play it like a SpongeBob cartoon. No, that's what I was gonna say, Tim. Is like that was what was distracting, because normally when you have cartoons, like you have good actors in them, but Haley Atwell is like actually really good as a voice actor for this role, and that was why it was like the first 5 minutes of this was super distracting to me. I was like, I really wish they had just put like maybe another day into her lip movements in this, because they were just way off. But I will say,
I think it's not that though. I think it's just a style choice. And at the end of the day, I want to say, like, I think it was a good choice because the dialogue and all that stuff is not the focus of this. It is just getting to these action scenes that are allowed to breathe because of the style they chose. So I do think it was a wise call at the end of the day.
No, but there were some scenes in this that I really liked though. I like the scene with them, and I like the fact that their love wasn't contingent on him being this hulking, beautiful stud guy, right? Like I love that scene in the pub where like Howard Stark interrupts. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
I love that.
He's like, "Go ahead, don't let me stop you." You know, like, and I think the Howard Stark character was great in this. He has the line of the show so far for me, right? Where all the shit's going down, deep shot in the gut, whatever. No, he doesn't want to get into the thing. Everyone's like, "Who's going to get into the thing?" And Peggy's like, "Fuck it, I'll do it," and runs over and he goes, "Agent Carter," and then he runs over to his thing. I was like, "Yeah," it's basically like saying fuck yeah, but without saying fuck yeah. That got me. I was like, I'm in. I'm on this character's side, man. How about a fucking Steve Rogers being Iron Man for a hot second? Can we talk about that?
That's pretty cool.
What I like about that is thinking about the ramifications of it, of like Iron Man Mark 1 being back then. So it's just like, at the end of this episode, we see that they are in an at least 2012 Avengers timeline for their universe. And it's like, what does Tony Stark look like when his father had already been doing it? It's like, and that's what's so cool about What If, because I think that's something that I wasn't really expecting. Is going into this one, I'm like, what if Captain Carter was Steve Rogers? It's like, that's so boring to me. But they proved that even a boring concept to me can end up being really cool, because it's not just that. There is a lot more ramifications of the changes of that one choice, right? And what I really like too is, and we'll see how much this actually comes into play or doesn't, but this coming right after Loki, like her moment her Nexus event that they talk about in the beginning as the Watcher's given the premise, which is such a great setup for this show of the Watcher just explaining what the moment was.
And it's
And
Jeffrey
yeah,
Wright.
exactly. And
It's
there,
so
and he, and
cool.
like right there, that's the
But
choice that changes
and
it.
so cool. And I love that with that, he says that like she made the choice. And it's like, oh, is this free will? Like, is this the choice of like, because the Loki timeline, like now they're allowed to make choices, which causes these events? Very cool shit.
One more thing about the acting, like I thought it was really weird that they couldn't get Hugo Weaving's likeness or didn't want to get close. Like,
Well, they didn't.
They didn't what?
They cast him as the dude from The Walking Dead.
No, yeah,
his
no,
name?
I know, but like that's also because Hugo Weaving was like, I don't want to do any of these more movies.
But they modeled it after the new character,
Oh,
new guy.
interesting.
Yeah,
That
was
the,
awesome. I think I like that.
who was also in
The-
Infinity War as
Yeah,
Red Skull.
yeah. But he was in Infinity War as Red Skull, which I get looked like him, but it was just off-putting to see Hugo Weaving's character and be like, oh, that's a different guy. But I guess that makes sense when you.
It's just
phrase
like
it that
Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle.
way. Yeah.
I do want to shout out whoever the voice actor was for Steve Rogers. I thought he did a great job, and
Josh Keaton,
at
baby.
times has that intonation and sort of those verbal tics that you're used to hearing from Chris Evans. But news to me that Sebastian Stan was actually Bucky, because
yeah, that's
I'm with
interesting.
you. I thought that was not a great job from Sebastian Stan, unfortunately. But I do want to kind of keep talking about the lip sync and how some of it looks off. For me, the more distracting part was how luscious Chris Evans and Steve Rogers' lips were. Like skinny Steve Rogers
Kissable.
has the most kissable lips I've ever seen in my life, and
Sure.
it's like, why are they so accentuated? They almost looked wet, and I could have sworn I saw like a wet lip It was weird. It was weird.
Nick, Josh Keaton, the voice of Steve here,
Mhm.
also the voice of the best Spider-Man of all time, the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh
Spider-Man.
wow.
Oh, interesting. That was the one
Yeah,
that no one
didn't see his
watched,
lips.
right? When they
Greatest victim of the Sony
so
buyout.
I do want to sort of expand on the stuff that I do like, and why I'm worried that it's all that I might get out of this series is the small changes. And well, shit, if that's how Ironmonger or the Mark I or whatever looked back then, how's it going to look now? What are the ramifications of that in this new universe? And I hope that those things aren't the only things that I enjoy about this series, because I want there to be really cool story beats and cool twists and turns. And it seems like we're going to get that based on some of the stuff that I've read, not spoilerized, but just like, whoa, there are some really cool things that happen. But I do hope that, Tim, we always talk about how you and I love logo changes and just variations of things. So like, what does this suit look like when this other hero is inside of it or whatever? That's the stuff that I really love, and those are easy victories for me as the viewer, but I still want to feel satiated when it comes to story and plot and stuff like that.
Yeah, and with that real quick, and then Nick, I want to get to you, but with the logo changes and stuff, I'm a fucking sucker for music cues and shit, and I love that they had all the first Avengers music cues, but they gave Captain Carter her own theme, which I'm like, that is so cool.
that's
Where
sick.
they took the idea of it and like kind of the notes, but then they like gave her its own little like vibe, which is like, if they keep doing that, woo! Nick, what's up?
Question is that I haven't followed the news on this a lot. Is this supposed to be an anthology series where every episode is completely different? What if, or does it follow a streamline now, or follow a storyline now throughout the arc?
Follows.
They're being a little bit vague about it, where it's a little bit of both, because it's multiverse. It's all canon, so that should answer your question. Of everything is kind of part of the MCU now that the multiverse is busted open, but we aren't necessarily going to ever come back to this story, but we might.
But okay, that's cool. I mean, either way, I'm down for it. But I was like, after watching this, I'm like, wow, I really hope that Captain Carter is sort of the linchpin of this whole thing, and she is the character that we follow through all these other stories.
I thought that's
Just like
what it
Captain
was.
America
Yeah.
was for
They've
the
confirmed
Avengers.
that, yeah.
Have they confirmed that? Okay, that's
so
super
all,
cool.
all the episodes are connected, but they're not necessarily connected to the MCU in a more direct way.
Yeah, I
It's
don't mind
like
that so
they're
much.
in-
I just think I think she's a very fascinating character, and then having everything centered, having like the Avengers and all these things centered around her. She comes back for Nick. Obviously, we see her with Nick Fury, which is freaking awesome. Having her be the Steve Rogers of this universe, I think is super cool. It's a really interesting what if.
do we call it the MCM now? Marvel
Eventually.
Cinematic Multiverse?
I don't think they're going to do that, but
Well, we could do
Uh,
it. We could coin that
do
phrase
whatever
right
we
now. Andy, put it on a t-shirt.
I'm on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm excited to see how the next couple episodes shake out, like the whole season, where it's like I don't think that Captain Carter is going to be in many of the episodes, but I think
Yeah,
that
I
she
think
will
so.
be kind of the linchpin between connecting episodes. Like I think there's going to be a lot of one-offs that connect at points, but it's
Yeah.
not going to be like next episode. I mean, we already know is not going to. At least she might cameo or something, but she's not.
Right.
Yeah,
not
Nick,
the-
because earlier on, Nick, when I wasn't necessarily in love with the art style, I really wanted and kind of loved the idea and fantasy of having every episode be similar to Love, Death, and Robots, where every episode has its own art style,
Yeah.
and it's different directors tackling different visions of what this could look like, and maybe there's an anime version, and maybe there's a super hyper realistic 3D, and maybe there's a 2D animation of it. But then when we did that most recent reacts to it, which is about a month or two ago. I forget how long ago it was, but we saw that trailer and it seemed like everything was a lot more interconnected than we initially thought. And then so that you go, oh shit, never mind. I guess it all has to kind of be one art style if we're gonna see recurring characters in others people's stories, not necessarily being the star of that show, but just kind of popping up here and there. We kind of need that sort of melding and the sameness of that animation style.
Yeah, Andy, that's what Star Wars Visions is going to be.
Yeah,
Where
that's
it's
right.
not canon at all, just different styles every episode, which is really cool stuff. Before we end real quick, I just want to give a shout out in case people missed the credits of this. Like a lot of the actors are the original actors for the characters. I think the only one that isn't is Steve Rogers. So that's kind of interesting with Josh Keaton being his voice. But otherwise, Howard Stark was Dominic Cooper. Sebastian Stan was.
I would have never guessed that.
Was Bucky. Toby Jones was Arnim Zola. Bradley Whitford was John Flynn, the kind of like asshole white guy who was not even in the.
He was in the
movies
one shot,
themselves.
right?
He was in the one shot that came with Iron Man 3, which is interesting.
He's the guy from
West Wing.
West
Billy
Wing.
Madison.
That guy. That guy.
That fucking guy.
Who was
Yeah.
Daryl Hammond?
Daryl Hammond was a Nazi general.
Got it. Okay.
Daryl Hammond from SNL.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then Samuel L. Jackson was Nick Fury. Jeremy Renner was Clint Barton. And Neil McDonough was Dum Dum Duggan of the Howling Commandos. So really cool
That's
stuff.
cool.
Next week, we will return with another MCU What If right here on the Kind of Funny Screencast. Before then, like I said, we're going to be reviewing Free Guy, which is very, very, very exciting stuff. And before we leave, Greg Miller has a question.
I wish I had watched First Avenger before this again. So my question is, do we know what the what if is for episode 2? Is this the T'Challa one? Is this the Guardians one?
T'Challa and Ravagers. Like,
Okay.
if you guys want a hint at what's to come, you can watch the show Marvel Studios Legends on Disney Plus, and they do those little like 5-minute recaps, so you don't need to watch the movie. And I've been watching them; they're hype as fuck. There's 3 that are out right now. There's one that's Peggy Carter, that included stuff from the one shot in it. It's only like 8 minutes. There's one that is the Ravagers that go through all of the Yondu storyline. It's really fucking hype. And then there's one about the Avengers Initiative, which is going to be episode 3, focusing on Nick Fury doing some shit. And it is incredibly hype.
My last thing right before we leave is I do wish these ended with trailers for the next episode, because I feel like that's the kind of hype that I need to get even more worked up for what's coming. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Let us know in the comments below what you think about Marvel Studios What If. And until next time, love you all. Goodbye.